Good evening. Welcome to our fourth episode of Going Back to Our Roots program. First of all, my name is Princess Dipuo, the president of SACO, South African Royal Kingdoms Organization. I would like to make a disclaimer. In our program, we would like people to know who they are, to go back to our roots, because we are saying a tree that has been removed from its roots will surely die. It will never grow. As a result, we want to go back and reconnect with who we are. So if you're a person that doesn't want to know the truth, this is not your channel. If you're a person that is not open-minded, this is not your channel. If you're a person that is not willing to read, this is not your channel. If you're a person that is not willing to do research, this is not your channel. If you're a person that is not willing to ask questions, to say, why are we here? Who are we? And discover and rediscover who we really are and where we lost our way, this is not your channel. Having done the disclaimer, I would like to ask everyone to subscribe to our channel, so that it can help us to bring more of the programs that are going to enhance our lives, that are going to give answers to our lives. We can see what is happening in our country, and we need to really come up with solutions that will be working for us. In our previous episode, I have shown that Christianity is our way of living. We just didn't give it a name. We didn't call it Christianity until the Greeks came to Europe, until European Greeks came to Ethiopia and Egypt, and they learned our way of doing things. They learned our religion, they learned our culture, they learned our way of living. And they went back and they wrote it down and brought it back and sold to us. Last week we were looking at how religion has been manipulated and used to actually colonize us. We are actually slaves. We are not slaves in chains. We are slaves in the mind, because religion has actually put us there. After the Europeans came to us and actually took our culture and our religion and our way of living, they took our Christianity and changed it to Christendom. They took out the spirituality out of our religion and made it a physical thing, and they brought it back and sold it to us. We spoke in our last episode, on the third episode, we spoke about Calvinism, how the Boers actually used religion, and they say that they are coming from the 12 tribes of Israel. They are the chosen people. They are given South Africa as their land. We, the people that they found here, were actually not people, we are animals. So this is their land. This is their God-given right. So we are just animals, and they have a right to kill us because they cannot coexist with us. That is their religion. Now, I want us to, if we are saying that Africans are indigenous people of planet Earth, and before, during the Stone Age, Ice Age, there was ice in Europe, there was no Europe, and we are the people. Now, the question would be, how come, if we are the people that gave the world technology, agriculture, architecture, we built universities, we gave mathematics, we gave physics, we gave geography, practically we gave civilization to a point of a birth. Remember, I have shown that Queen Elizabeth I used to brag that she was the cleanest woman in Europe and she took a bath once a week. So we even gave Europeans a bath. Now, if we were such a strong and intelligent and advanced civilized people, how come we are at the bottom of the rank? Let us look at what really happened to us. Why are we here? I'm going to look at the situation, what is happening right now. You know, sometimes we need to look at what is happening and face it and deal with it. It has always been a strategy of Arabs when they started. Arabs were the first to colonize Africa before Europeans. Now, when Arabs came to occupy and colonize Africa, they did it slowly over a period of about 700 years or more. Now, what they did, they would send in the spies, and these spies would come and look at how we live. One of the biggest mistakes that we did and that we are still doing to this day is that we fight amongst each other as Africans. Now, they came in, they looked at us and they said, no, these people are fighting amongst them. So if we can come in and divide them, they are already having fights amongst themselves. Firstly, they don't have guns. We never manufactured guns at the time. We used to fight with spears. The weapons that we had were for fighting each other. We never had guns. So they firstly studied and said, okay, if we come in here because we've got ammunition, 100 of our soldiers can actually bring down 10,000 of them because we have guns that we can stand there and just shoot these people. They won't even come close to us by their spears. But how do we do that? Now, they came in and they actually said no, they wanted to trade. Because remember the Nile River, the trading space, they said they wanted to trade. So as Africans, we allowed the trade. They came in, and the first thing that they did, they slept with African women and produced offsprings. Now we begin to have offsprings who their fathers are Arabic and their mothers are African. Now, these offsprings would grow up as Arabs. They would identify with their fathers, not with their mothers, because their mothers were slaves. So they first captured us, made us slaves. When we were slaves, women had to sleep with them, and they produced these offsprings. Now these offsprings are being raised as Arabs. Let us look what they did in South Africa. They came in, when they begin coming in post-1994, post-apartheid, they came in only males. They never came with their families. It was only men that came into South Africa. And they begin to sleep with our sisters and our children and started having children that are Arabic and African. Same strategy, never changed. Now, these children grow up getting the privilege. Let us look at the Dutch, what they did. When they came in, they slept with our African women and they produced colours. And at the time of apartheid, colours were given more privileges than black people. As a result, they identified more with their white fathers, even though some of them didn't even know their white families, but they saw themselves more privileged than Africans. At this point, we must differentiate between coloureds and your hunter-gatherers, your bushmen, your Kam, your Korana. We must differentiate. Your Kam, your Korana, your bushmen, those are indigenous people of South Africa. Coloureds are the offsprings of your white colonizers and black African women. Coloureds. So there's a difference there. So now I'm talking purely about coloureds. Coloureds, during apartheid, they felt and they were given more privileges than black people. Even when there was jobs, they would be given better jobs than black women. They would be working in the bank, there would be administrators, they had their own location, which was not a bit further from the black location next to the Indian location. So they were given that preference. Same as Arabic children. With African women, they were given a better privileges than Africans. Now, these children grow up. So when these children grow up and they associate with their fathers, they begin to help their fathers to fight the Africans. This is what they did when they colonized Egypt and Ethiopia. This is what they did. You either became a slave or you fled. This is how the migration started of Africans moving towards the south, coming from north, coming to the south. The migrations started because there were those that were saying, we will be your slaves, we will succumb, we will be your slaves. And there were those that would say, we'll never be your slave, we'll fight until we die. Rather, let's migrate, let us move. So migration started and they started moving south. Africans. That's how you find the Nguni. The Nguni tribe, they themselves actually say, we come from Ethiopia. We come from Egypt. We come from Congo. They came down through the migrations. Now, this was the same strategy that they're using. So the minute they feel that now their offsprings are helping them, they don't identify with the mothers, they identify with them. Even with our colors here, some of them were like white people. But you find that the parents are both white and the children will come up dark like me, taking their mother's complexion. That's what you would find. But they identified with whites. But once they settle and they're happy that they have colonized, they're comfortable with what they have, I'm talking about the Arabs and the Europeans. In South Africa, we have a typical case of coloureds. Once the Arabs and the Europeans feel that now they're comfortable, they've conquered, they've colonized, they've gotten the Africans where they want to be, they begin to show their true colors towards their offsprings. They don't get those privileges anymore. Now the offsprings start becoming a bit bitter. That is why you find post-1994 in South Africa, now you would find some colors now beginning to identify with blacks. And they said, no, we Africans, we black people, we're not colored and everything. And now there's a new thing. All of them belong to Koran, Kam, because we do not have Khoisan. Khoisan is actually an abbreviation. There is nothing called Khoisan. It's actually Cap Holland orientated indigenous people. And the San is actually South African natives. So there is nothing called Khoisan. There is nothing like that. They have their own tribes. The indigenous people of South Africa, like I say, is the Korana, the Kam, the Bushmen. They all have their different tribes. There's nothing called Khoisan. Nothing like that. Now we have the Coloureds, who are offsprings of Europeans and African women. Those are Coloureds. Now, what is happening in South Africa currently? Post-1994, we saw Arabs, Pakistans coming in and taking over. They took over all the tuck shops in the locations. They took over all the shops in town. You go to Vereeniging, you go to Johannesburg CBD, you go to Pretoria CBD, you go to Vanderbijlpark. The shops are owned by them. They took over the shops. They have offsprings with our sisters, African sisters. Now, they are in a comfortable position. They bought an airport in the Eastern Cape. We don't know what weapons are coming in at that airport. We are seeing on social media, I'm going to talk about Sharpeville here. When they were asked nicely to say, the law says if you open a business in South Africa, minimum as a foreigner must be minimum 5 million. And the tuck shops and the small businesses are left to South Africans. They said they are not leaving. They'd rather fight. As I'm talking to you, here in Sharpeville, they have actually killed one of the African businessmen who was their competitor. They literally went to his house and shot him dead. They walk around with guns. And our government is saying nothing. It's dead quiet on the issue. The community in Sharpeville is actually asking for help from other locations to say they are coming in to support the Pakistans that are in Sharpeville to say they are not leaving the country. They are not going to give up the shops for the Africans or South Africans. So that tells you that now they're ready. They've implemented their plans that they've worked on for years. They have studied us. They have made children. They have those children supporting them in this fight for us. This has been their strategy from long time ago. This is what has been happening. It's still happening today. And we need to ask ourselves why. When Arabs went into Africa, they converted Africans to becoming Muslims. If you disagreed and you didn't want to become Muslim, you would become Muslim with a gun. At gunshot, you are forced to convert or you are killed. We have seen that happening in South Africa. They are getting South Africans to be converted to being Muslims. Go to Vereeniging. You would see how many they are. And now our women are now Muslims. You know, South Africa used to be a Christian country, 80% Christian country. But I don't think those stats are like that anymore. I think today we are seeing a steep rise in Islam. We are having more people being converted to being Muslims. Africans. Now the question is, before the missionaries came into South Africa, because the missionaries came in for Europeans, they brought us the Bible. They brought us this Jesus Christ that was actually created by the Council of Nicaea, created by Michelangelo in the 15th century at the Council of Nicaea. They gave us that Jesus. They colonized the image of God. They made God to be white and European and physical and political so that they can steal our land. Episode 3 showed that they come here and they give us this Bible that was written by at the commission of James Commission. They come up with King James Bible at the James Commission. Took professors from Eton University, Oxford University, and they have to write Scotland University, and they write the Word of God, King James Version, the one that Christians love the most. That King James is the correct one. And they write that. And they come to us. And they sell it to us. And they say, this is the Word of God. I wonder, when you close your eyes at night and you pray, what image is God? If you are made in the image of God and you are melanated, how come God is white in your face? And we wonder, a lot of people will be saying, we keep praying, but nothing is happening in our lives. We've moved away from our roots. We knew how to communicate with God. We are natural people. We are spiritual people. We are Christians. We do not say, we believe that God and nature is one thing. We see God in everything. God is the universe. Whereas European God created the universe. God let there be light, and there was light. He created the universe, the European God. But our God is the universe itself, and we are part of the universe. That is why we can resonate with nature. That is why we were able to build the pyramids of Giza, the pyramids in South Africa. We were able to build them. That is why we are so resilient. Even at the worst time of our life, when nature itself was against us, during evolution, we managed to evolve. When Africa's environment was not stable, when Africa's geographical environment was not stable, we still survived because we are part of nature. And Europeans come and they give us this Jesus, and Da Vinci draws this last picture of the Last Supper that everyone has in their house. But when we look at, there is no evidence in Egypt that there was ever a Passover. There is no evidence like that. There is no evidence in Egypt that there was ever a person called James. That was one of the governors of Egypt. The James story in the Bible. There is no evidence in Egypt that there was a child that grew up in one of the Pharaoh's houses that was gotten in the stream by one of Pharaoh's daughters. There is no such story. There is no Moses like that. There is no records. There is no evidence of that. Those are their tribal stories. Guys, we are Hebrews. Africans are Hebrews. When the first Jews, who are Europeans, who came from Russia, went into Egypt, There were 70. They didn't have a culture. They didn't have a religion. They didn't have a name. They were Jews. When they left, there were more than 600,000 when they left. They called themselves Hebrews. They had a culture and they had a religion, which they took from us. Changed it, made it physical. We have shown in our previous episode that Moses was an African man. Mount Sinai is in Africa. We had 147 negative conversions, which were reduced to 42 conversions. That's where you find your 10 commandments that Moses came down with from Mount Sinai. Still ours. So we need to remember and we need to understand that this Islam, this Christianity that is being sold to us, it is our way of living. It has been distorted and it has been made to colonize us, to enslave us. Now we are enslaved in the mind. We can't even see anything that is a writing on the wall. We can't see it. We are indigenous people of South Africa. We don't even have land. The Native Land Act of 1913, it's still in operational even today. Colonizers, land stealers, before 1994, they had 87% of the land. They still have 87% of the land to this day. We are still occupying 13%. As Africans, we didn't know, we didn't live in shacks. We didn't know a life of a shack. We built our own houses. We built our own houses even before Europeans lived in a house that has a window. Even before Europeans knew how to take a bath. Even before Europeans knew how to wear a leather shoe. We were building our own houses. Thatch roof. Go and check how much it will cost you to put thatch roof on your house. That is the level of our lifestyle. We didn't know shacks. We lived in our communities with our kings and chiefs and queens. If we go back to our indigenous way of living, we never had children that went to bed hungry. We didn't have poverty in Africa because we were a community. Ubuntu. White people want to learn Ubuntu because they don't have it. Ubuntu is our way of living. You wouldn't eat when your brother is not eating. You would make sure during the time of kings, when they used to be the leaders of the community and the rulers of the community, every widower, every orphan knew, every person that seeks asylum, they knew that they go to the royal house and they would be fed. They would be given land. They would be given shelter. The pride of an African man is his animals. African men had cattle. Today they don't have it. Colonizers, land stealers, when they left and got off their dromedaries They didn't get off dromedaries with cattle. They didn't get off their dromedaries with land over their heads. Even if they're from the 12 tribes of Israel, this is not Israel. They didn't come with the land by on their heads and say, this is our land, this is South Africa. When they got off dromedaries, they did not. They found us here. And we need to go back and say, what has happened? Before 1994, we knew who the enemy was. We were clear who the enemy was. Because at that time, these Arabs, these Pakistans that are here now, they were not there. They didn't have children with our children and our sisters. They didn't have. So we knew who the enemy was. Today we have more enemies. We were colonized through Christianity. The land was taken through Christianity. Now we are having Arabs coming in now. Boldly going around with ammunition, and our government is saying absolutely nothing. No case, no nothing. There's nothing wrong. They can walk around, threaten people. They can do what they want to do. It doesn't matter. And we wonder why. We don't have leaders in South Africa. We do not have leaders. We need, when we join any organization, we need to ask the leaders, leader, where are you leading me to? We don't ask critical questions. We don't ask our leaders, leader, where are you leading me to? We need to ask that question. Because we just follow. If someone speaks nicely and they've got charisma, or they can sing, or they say one word that is nice, we now follow them. We don't know their principles. We don't know their mission. We don't know who they're working for. We don't know if they are colonized. We don't know whose payroll they're on. And we are following them. And history shows us that when colonizers came to colonize, they had spies. Spies would come and check how we live. The very same spies are the spies that we are calling leaders, and we are following them. How do you like that one? Because we never asked, leader, where are you leading me to? Where? Where is this journey going? We don't ask that question. It's about time we go back to our roots. It's about time we know who the enemy is. Arabs and Europeans never ever had good intentions for Africans. Never. They want what Africans want. They think they cannot do without it, and they don't want to pay for it. They want our minerals. They want our land. They even want us as their slaves. They want everything, and they don't want to pay for it. And we are freely giving it to them because we are not united. We do not ask the right questions. We have moved away from our way of living. When Europeans came and gave us a white Jesus and a white God, when they colonized the image of God and gave it to us, we wanted to be European. You find Africans that are more Europeans than Europeans themselves. Funny enough, you go to Europe, most of Europeans are not even Christians. They're not. It was designed for us. so that they can colonize us. And then they come and tell you that Hebrews are white people. No, Hebrews are us. We are Hebrews. They are Jews on occupied land. That land is not even for the Palestinians. It's an African land that the Palestinians conquered and took from Africans. It's not even theirs, even the Palestinians. It's not their land. It's African land. There are two countries fighting for the land that is not theirs. We need to start thinking about these things. And we need to talk about them. And we need to go back and connect to ourselves. When they colonized God, they demonized everything African. Everything that was African was demonized. As if God didn't create us. If then God created, we are also part of the creation. And how can God create demons? Everything was demonized. And today, Christians see the African way of living as a demonic way of living. Now you ask yourself, how did their ancestors live before colonizers came on board? Before they got off their dromedaries, how did they live? Didn't they communicate with God? Didn't they commune with God? Or were they demons at that time? Just do a mini research. Take any Christian and ask them for their own lineage, their own. They would tell you about their mother and their father, grandmother, grandfather, great-grandmother, if you're lucky. Fourth generation, they don't know. However, as the lineage of Jesus Christ, they know it up until Abraham. But they don't know their own. How do you expect to make things work in your life when you don't even know who you are? When you don't even know the line of ancestors that you come from? You are completely lost. You are disconnected from your roots. How then are you going to make your life work when you are completely disconnected? If you are now given this white God that Europeans themselves don't worship and you are given to worship, does it make sense? Go do your research. Europeans are not Christians. They're not. Yet we are holding on to this lie, to this chain in our mind that has enslaved us. We need to break those chains. We need to break the chains that is called Christianity and Islam. We need to break those chains. It is not for us. We are Africans. We are co-creators with God. We respect our women. We know that women are co-creators with God. We know that they are our goddesses. We know that. But we are going to a male chauvinist Islam. They don't even allow their women to go to the mosque. They don't. Chauvinists. And we need to follow that. Very cruel. Very, very cruel. Light and darkness can never exist in the same place. When you switch on the light, the dark disappears immediately. You cannot be a slave to two masters. You can't be cruel and serve God at the same time. And a slave and a master cannot serve the same God. A slave and a master cannot serve the same God. It's impossible because their prayers are different. How come your master, who is your slave, is giving you a God? You can't. You can't. A master and a slave can never serve the same God. So we need to look at those things, and we need to go back to our roots. At this point, I'm going to say thank you very much. We really need to look at what these Arabs are doing in our country, and we must critically analyze it, go back to history. Let's see how Egypt was lost and why Egypt ended up having Europeans and Arabs in the majority, and Africans are out of there. They had to migrate south. So as South African, we can't migrate anywhere. Cape Town is now sea after that. Where are we going to migrate? At least they were lucky. They migrated south. The Nguni tribes are here. They migrated here. So where are we going to go? So we can't. We can't. Let us analyze this situation. Let us really look at what is happening in our country, and let us stand up and fight for our rights and know who our enemies are. They gave us Christianity. They gave us Islam. It is not ours. Let us reject it and go back to who we are and start connecting with God and getting guidance and getting out of this mess that we are in. Thank you very much, and goodbye.